Jake Morrison straightened his blue suit jacket and walked through the tall glass doors of the Galactic Council building. The massive structure stretched high into the alien sky, its walls made of some kind of crystal that changed colors as he moved. Hundreds of different alien species moved through the wide hallways, talking in languages that sounded like music, growling, or electronic beeps. Morrison had been Earth's main diplomat for 3 years now. He had learned to smile at creatures with tentacles for faces, bow to beings made of living rock, and shake hands with aliens who had claws instead of fingers. Today was supposed to be different. Today, humanity was asking for something important. The human delegation walked behind Morrison as they entered the main council chamber. Dr. Kevin Hayes carried a briefcase full of documents about human mining technology. Captain Lisa Barnes wore her dress uniform, though she looked uncomfortable without her usual combat gear. General Patricia Stone had wanted to come herself, but Earth's leaders thought it was better to send people who looked less threatening. The council chamber was enormous. Seats arranged in circles went up toward the ceiling like an ancient Roman theater. Each section held different alien species, and Morrison had spent months learning their names and customs. The Zephyrians sat in the highest seats, their tall, thin bodies glowing with soft light. They considered themselves the wisest species in the galaxy. Below them sat the hegemony representatives, massive reptilian creatures with sharp teeth and scales that looked like metal armor. They controlled the largest military force known, space. Their leader, Draconer, was twice the size of a human and had yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. Morrison took his place at the small podium reserved for humanity. The other species had grand platforms decorated with their cultural symbols. Humans got a simple metal stand that looked like it came from a school cafeteria. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Morrison began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Humanity comes before you today with a proposal for mutual benefit. Some of the aliens made sounds that Morrison had learned meant amusement. A few others whispered among themselves. After 3 years, he was used to being treated like a child trying to sit at the adult table. We have discovered significant mineral deposits in the Kepler 442 system, Morrison continued. Our surveys show rare elements that could benefit all member species. We propose a joint mining operation. Counselor Vexthera of the Zephyrians stood up. Her voice sounded like wind chimes when she spoke. Ambassador Morrison, your species is still very young. Mining operations in space require experience that takes thousands of years to develop. Perhaps humans should observe how such things are done before attempting them. Morrison nodded politely. We understand your concern, Counselor. However, human engineering has developed some unique approaches that might complement traditional methods. This time, several aliens made sounds that were definitely laughter. Draconer of the hegemony rose from his seat, his massive form casting a shadow over the human delegation. Little human Draconer's voice was deep and threatening. Your people have been in space for less than 50 years. They've been mining asteroids since before your species learned to make fire. What could you possibly teach us? Morrison kept his diplomatic smile in place. We simply hoped to contribute our perspective, Counselor Draconer. Human innovation often comes from approaching problems differently. Another hegemony member laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. You mean primitively? Your ships still use chemical rockets for landing? Your weapons are based on simple nuclear reactions. You are like children playing with toys. Dr. Hayes stepped forward slightly, but Morrison gestured for him to stay back. The doctor had wanted to show the aliens some of humanity's recent technological developments, but Morrison knew it was not the right time. We respect the wisdom of elder species, Morrison said. If the Council feels that humanity is not ready for such responsibility, we will accept that decision. Vexthera exchanged glances with other Zephyrian delegates. It is not personal, Ambassador, but resources in the Kepler system are too valuable to risk on untested methods. The hegemony has proven mining techniques. They should handle this operation. Smiled, showing his predator teeth. The hegemony accepts this responsibility. He will ensure the resources are extracted efficiently and distributed fairly among worthy species. Morrison noticed that Draconer did not include humanity in his definition of worthy species. The insult was clear to everyone in the chamber, but Morrison continued to smile politely. Of course, Morrison said. Humanity understands its place. In the galactic community, we are here to learn from our betters. Several alien species made approving sounds. The humans were being properly humble. They knew their place in the natural order. What none of the aliens knew was that Captain Barnes was listening to every word through a hidden communication device. Her ship, the USS Endeavour, was positioned just outside the station's sensor range, completely invisible to alien detection systems. The humans had been studying galactic technology for 3 years, and they had learned some interesting things. Back on Earth, General Stone was reviewing intelligence reports in her underground command center. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitive newcomers who barely understood space travel. They had no idea that human spy satellites were monitoring every military installation in 3-star systems. Dr. Hayes had spent the last year studying captured alien technology. His reports always reached the same conclusion for all their advanced appearance. These species had become lazy and predictable. Their weapons were designed to look impressive rather than work effectively. Their tactics had not changed in centuries. Meanwhile, human engineers were developing new weapons based on principles the aliens had never considered. Human strategists were mapping every weakness in galactic defenses. Human diplomats were learning which species could be turned against each other when the time came. But for now, Morrison continued to play his role as the humble representative of a weak species. The Council's wisdom guides the galaxy, Morrison said, bowing slightly. Humanity is grateful for the opportunity to learn from such experienced civilizations. As the session ended and aliens began filing out of the chamber, Morrison heard several comments that were meant to be overheard. At least they know their place. Better than some young species who think they deserve respect immediately. Give them a few centuries. Maybe they will develop something useful. Morrison gathered his papers and walked out with his delegation. Once they were in the hallway, Dr. Hayes leaned close. That was hard to watch, Hayes whispered. We could show them technology that would make their heads spin. Not yet, Morrison replied quietly. Let them think we are harmless. Let them believe their own superiority. When the time comes, they will never see us coming. Captain Barnes' voice came through their hidden communicator. Dorda, sir. Morrison smiled, but this time it was not his diplomatic smile. This time it was something else entirely. Continue monitoring, continue learning, and continue preparing. Galaxy thought it knew humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 months passed after the humiliating meeting at the Galactic Council. The hegemony had taken control of the Kepler 442 mining operation and was making huge profits from the rare minerals. They made sure everyone knew that humans had been too weak and stupid to handle such an important job. Commander Alex Carter was drinking his morning coffee on Terra Station when the alarm started screaming. The orbital defense platform sat at the edge of Earth's solar system, watching for any ships that might approach their home world. Carter had been stationed there for 2 years, and it had been the most boring assignment of his military career. Until today, Commander. Lieutenant Sarah Kim ran into the command center, her face pale with shock. We have incoming ships. Lots of them. Carter set down his coffee cup and walked to the main display screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. 47 alien warships had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. They were arranged in perfect battle formation, with the massive hegemony dreadnought Sharik leading the fleet. Get me Admiral Foster on Earth, Carter ordered, and send word to all defense stations. This is not a drill. Communication from the alien fleet came within minutes. Drakener's ugly face appeared on the main screen, his yellow eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. Humans of the Sol system, Drakener's voice boomed through the speakers. You have been judged unworthy by the Galactic Council. Your arrogance in requesting mining rights has been noted. It is time you learned your proper place in the galaxy. Carter kept his voice steady. This is Commander Carter of Terra Station. What are your intentions, Drakener? The alien leader laughed, showing his rows of sharp teeth. My intentions are simple, little human.
Ow.
You will surrender your fastest ships to the hegemony fleet. You will give us your most advanced technology. You will accept hegemony oversight of your pathetic world. If you refuse, we will destroy your planet and use it as an example to other upstart species. I will need to consult with Earth's command, Carter replied. Please stand by for our response. Draconer's eyes narrowed. You have 1 hour, human. After that, we begin bombardment. The communication ended, leaving Carter staring at the massive alien fleet on his sensors. 47 ships, including 6 heavy cruisers and that enormous dreadnought. According to everything humans had learned about galactic warfare, Earth should surrender immediately. But Carter was smiling. On Earth, President Michelle Roberts was in an emergency meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the war room deep beneath. The Pentagon was filled with military leaders who had been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Report, the president said as she entered the room. Admiral Ryan Foster stood at attention. Madam President, the hegemony has sent their primary battle fleet to demand our surrender. They want our ships, our technology, and control over Earth.
Ow.
Long until they reach our planet? Roberts asked. At their current speed, about 6 hours, Foster replied. But they are staying at the edge of the system, probably hoping we will panic and surrender. General Patricia Stone looked up from her tactical display. The formation is exactly what we expected. Traditional galactic doctrine. They are protecting their command ship while maximizing their firepower. It is the same strategy they have used for centuries. President Roberts nodded. Are our preparations complete? Yes, Madam President, Foster said with a grin. Our mining ships have been placing nuclear mines throughout the system for the past year. Our stealth technology is working perfectly. The alien fleet has no idea they are surrounded. Dr. Kevin Hayes entered the room carrying a thick folder. Madam President, I have the final analysis of alien military technology. Their energy shields are designed to stop plasma weapons and particle beams. They have never encountered simple nuclear explosions. Their sensors cannot detect our stealth ships because they are looking for energy signatures we do not produce. What about their numbers? Roberts asked. 47 ships is a lot of firepower. General Stone smiled coldly. Madam President, we have been studying their tactics for 3 years. They rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. They have never fought an enemy that uses strategy instead of brute strength. They have never faced guerrilla warfare or surprise attacks, Foster added. Our ships are smaller and look primitive, but they are faster and more maneuverable. Wow. They were building bigger guns. We were building smarter weapons. President Roberts made her decision quickly. Send our response to the hegemony fleet. Tell them that Earth respectfully declines their generous offer. The response was transmitted back to the alien fleet within the hour. Ambassador Jake Morrison delivered it personally through quantum communication, using the same polite tone he had used in the council chambers. Hegemony Commander Draconer, this is Ambassador Morrison speaking for the government of Earth. After careful consideration, humanity must respectfully decline your offer. We prefer to maintain our independence and sovereignty. The silence that followed lasted for nearly a minute. Then Draconer's voice exploded through the communication system. You dare refuse the hegemony? You pathetic primitive fools. Your world will burn as an example to the galaxy. No species defies us and survives. We understand your position, Commander, Morrison replied calmly. However, our decision is final. The communication ended, and the alien fleet began moving. Toward Earth, Captain Lisa Barnes watched from the bridge of the USS Endeavour as the hegemony ships advanced. Her vessel was completely invisible to alien sensors, positioned directly behind the enemy formation. Around her, 23 other human ships waited in perfect silence. All ships report ready, her tactical officer Tony Rodriguez announced. Nuclear mines are armed and positioned. Stealth drones are in attack formation. The trap is set. Barnes nodded. The aliens were flying straight into the most carefully planned ambush in human history. They thought they were attacking a primitive world with crude defenses. They had no idea they were about to face the descendants of Earth's apex predators. Wait for my signal, Barnes ordered. Let them get closer. Let them think they are winning. On the Sheriketh, Draconer was already planning his victory celebration. The humans had shown their typical stupidity by refusing to surrender. They would pay the price for their arrogance. Target their largest cities. Drakenor ordered his weapons officers. Make sure the destruction is visible from space. Other species must see what happens when they defy the hegemony. The alien fleet moved into Earth's inner solar system, completely confident in their superior numbers and firepower. They had destroyed dozens of worlds using these same tactics. Earth would be no different, but as they approached their target, something felt wrong. Their sensors were not detecting the panicked radio traffic they expected from a doomed world. There were no desperate surrender offers or pleas for mercy. There was only silence. "Sir," one of Drakenor's officers reported nervously, "our scans are not picking up the usual defensive formations." "Where are their ships?" Drakenor smiled coldly. "Hiding behind their planet like cowards. It does not matter. We will drag them out and destroy them one by one." He had no idea that at that exact moment, he was completely surrounded by invisible human warships, each one armed with weapons designed specifically to kill hegemony vessels. The trap was about to spring, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened humanity's home. The hegemony fleet moved closer to Earth, their massive ships casting shadows across space. Drakenor stood on the bridge of the Sherakith, watching his tactical display with satisfaction. 47 warships against one primitive planet. The outcome was already decided. "Sir, we are in range of their world," his weapons officer reported. "Shall we begin the bombardment?" "Not yet," Drakenor replied. "First, we destroy their pathetic defense fleet. Want them to watch their protectors die before we burn their cities." But something was wrong. The hegemony sensors were not detecting any human ships. There were no desperate radio transmissions begging for mercy. Earth seemed strangely quiet for a world about to be destroyed. "Where are their defenders?" Drakenor asked his sensor operator. "Unknown, sir. Our scans show no military vessels in the area. Perhaps they fled when they saw our fleet approaching." Drakenor laughed. "Cowards. They abandoned their own world rather than face us in battle. This will be easier than I thought." He was wrong. Captain Lisa Barnes watched from the bridge of the Asa's Endeavor as the alien fleet moved into position. Her ship was invisible to enemy sensors, floating in the darkness just 2,000 kilometers away from the hegemony formation. Around her, 23 other human vessels waited in perfect silence. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant Commander Tony Rodriguez whispered from his tactical station. "Nuclear mines are armed. Stealth drones are in attack position. Holographic projectors are online," Barnes nodded. The aliens were about to learn the difference between superior technology and superior strategy. The hegemony had bigger ships and more powerful weapons. But humans had something the aliens had never encountered: creativity. To begin Phase 1, Barnes ordered quietly. Suddenly, the hegemony sensors detected movement. A small human fleet appeared. On their screens, moving slowly toward the alien formation. The ships looked primitive and crude compared to the sleek hegemony vessels. "There they are," Drakenor sneered. 12 pathetic ships against our entire fleet. They must be insane." He was looking at holographic projections, but he did not know that. Human technology had created perfect illusions that appeared completely real to alien sensors. The actual human ships were somewhere else entirely. "Target the lead vessel," Drakenor commanded. "Show them the power of the hegemony." The Sherakith fired its main plasma cannon, a weapon capable of destroying entire space stations. The massive energy beam struck the lead human ship and passed straight through it without causing any damage. "What?" Drakenor stared at his display. In confusion, "Fire again." 3 more plasma beams struck the human ship. All of them passed through the target like it was made of air. The hegemony crew began to panic. "Sir, our weapons are not affecting them. They must have some kind of advanced shielding technology." Drakenor's eyes widened with fear. If the humans had shields that could stop hegemony weapons, then this battle was not going to be as easy as he had thought. That was exactly what Barnes wanted him to think. "Phase 2, she ordered. The real human fleet was moving into position. Behind the hegemony formation, while the aliens were distracted by the holographic decoys, Barnes had maneuvered her ships to surround the enemy fleet. The humans were now in perfect position to attack. But first, the mines. For the past year, human mining vessels had been placing nuclear explosives throughout the solar system. The mines were invisible to alien sensors because they were not designed to detect such primitive weapons. The hegemony had shields that could stop energy beams and particle cannons. But nobody in the galaxy used simple atomic bombs anymore. Nobody except humans. Detonate the mines, Barnes commanded. Space erupted in nuclear fire. The explosions appeared everywhere at once, surrounding the hegemony fleet in a cloud of atomic destruction. Ships that had dominated the galaxy for centuries were torn apart by weapons their builders considered obsolete. Energy shields designed to deflect sophisticated attacks were useless against simple nuclear explosions. 6 hegemony cruisers vanished in the first wave of detonations. 12 smaller ships were crippled or destroyed. The mighty Sharikith was damaged, but still fighting, its thick armor protecting it from the worst of the explosions. Impossible, Draconer screamed. Our shields should stop any attack. His tactical officer was frantically checking his instruments. Sir, these are not energy weapons. They are using primitive nuclear devices. Our shields are not designed to stop physical explosions. Then adapt. Reconfigure the shields. It will take several minutes, sir. We do not have several minutes. That was when the human ships decloaked all around the hegemony fleet, sleek. Human vessels appeared as if they had materialized from nothing. The aliens suddenly realized they had been surrounded while they were distracted by the holographic decoys. They were trapped in the middle of a perfectly planned ambush. All ships open fire, Barnes ordered. The human attack was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of trying to match the aliens in brute firepower, the humans had studied their enemies and found their weaknesses. Hegemony ships were designed to fight other vessels that used energy weapons and followed traditional tactics. Human ships fired kinetic projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. Simple metal rods moving at near light speed punched through alien armor like it was paper. Nuclear torpedoes exploded inside enemy ships. Bypassing their energy shields completely, the USS Endeavour fired a spread of missiles at a hegemony cruiser. The alien point defense systems tried to shoot down the incoming weapons but failed. The missiles were not using energy propulsion that the aliens could detect. They were powered by chemical rockets, technology so primitive that the hegemony computers did not recognize them as threats. The cruiser exploded in a ball of nuclear fire all across the battlefield. The same scene was repeated. Advanced alien warships were being destroyed by weapons, their crews considered ancient and obsolete. The hegemony fleet, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was being torn apart by human ingenuity. Sir, we have lost 18 ships, Draconer, tactical officer, reported in panic. Our weapons cannot lock onto the human vessels. Their hulls are absorbing our sensor beams. Draconer stared at his tactical display in horror. Half his fleet was gone, and the battle had been going on for less than 10 minutes. The humans were not just defeating the hegemony, they were destroying them completely. How is this possible? Whispered. They are supposed to be primitive. They are supposed to be weak. Captain Barnes heard those words through her communication intercept system. She smiled coldly as she prepared to answer his question. All human ships, this is Admiral Barnes. Target the Sharikith. It is time to end this. It's the massive hegemony. Dreadnought found itself surrounded by every remaining human vessel. Dozens of nuclear torpedoes and kinetic projectiles converged on the alien flagship. The Sharikith's shields flickered and failed under the DHAT coordinated assault. The ship that had been the terror of the galaxy was crippled in seconds. Draconer watched his fleet burn and finally understood the terrible truth. The humans had never been weak. They had been waiting. They had been studying. They had been preparing for this exact moment. The galaxy was about to learn. What happened when prey animals tried to threaten the apex predators of Earth? The news traveled across the galaxy faster than any spaceship could fly. The hegemony's most powerful fleet had been destroyed by the humans in less than 15 minutes. Not damaged or defeated, but completely annihilated. Only 3 ships had escaped, including the crippled Sheriketh, and they carried news that shook every alien. Civilization to its core. The species that the galaxy had dismissed as primitive newcomers had just proven. They were the deadliest warriors anyone had ever encountered. Ambassador Jake Morrison received an urgent message while he was having breakfast in his quarters on the diplomatic station. The Galactic Council was demanding an emergency session. Every major species in the galaxy wanted answers about what had happened. At Earth, Morrison smiled as he put on his diplomatic suit. For 3 years, he had played the role of the humble representative of a weak species. Today, he would reveal the truth about humanity. The council chamber was in chaos when Morrison arrived. Alien delegates were arguing in dozens of different languages, their voices filled with fear and confusion. The same beings who had laughed at human requests for mining rights were now terrified of what humans might do next. Counselor Vexera of the Zephyrians stood when Morrison entered the chamber. Her usually calm voice was shaking with barely controlled panic. Ambassador Morrison, the council demands an explanation. How did your people destroy the hegemony fleet? What weapons did you use? Are you planning to attack other systems? Morrison walked to his small podium, the same simple metal stand he had used for 3 years. But this time, the massive chamber was completely silent. Every alien eye was focused on him, waiting for his words. Honored members of the Galactic Council. Morrison began with the same polite tone he had always used. Humanity is grateful for your concern about the recent incident in our solar system. Incident. Drakener's voice boomed from his seat. The hegemony leader was wounded and humiliated, his massive frame covered in bandages. You destroyed my entire fleet? You murdered thousands of my warriors? Morrison turned to face the alien commander with perfect calm. Commander Drakener, your fleet entered our system and threatened to destroy our world. We simply defended ourselves. Defended? Another alien delegate jumped to his feet. You obliterated them. The hegemony had the most powerful military in the galaxy, had Morrison repeated quietly, past tense. The simple correction sent a chill through the chamber. The humans were not apologizing or making excuses. They were stating facts. Dr. Kevin Hayes entered the chamber, carrying a large briefcase. The aliens watched nervously as he set up a holographic projector at Morrison's podium. For 3 years, they had seen Hayes as a harmless scientist. They wondered what other secrets he had been hiding. If the council wishes, Morrison said, Dr. Hayes can explain how the battle was won. I think you will find it educational. The holographic display showed a detailed analysis of the destroyed hegemony ships. Hayes pointed to various sections of the wreckage as he spoke. The alien vessels were designed to fight enemies who used energy weapons and traditional tactics, Hayes explained in his calm academic voice. Their shields could stop plasma beams and particle cannons, but they were useless against simple nuclear explosions. Vexthera leaned forward in her seat. But nuclear weapons are primitive technology. No civilized species has used them for warfare in thousands of years. Hayes smiled. That was your mistake. You assumed that advanced meant better. Sometimes the old ways are more effective. The hologram showed how human kinetic weapons had punched through alien armor. Hayes explained how chemical rockets had been invisible to sophisticated alien sensors designed to detect energy signatures. Your technology evolved to fight other species who thought like you, Hayes continued. Humans think differently. We are problem solvers. We find weaknesses and exploit them. Drakener struggled to his feet, his injured body shaking with rage. You tricked us. You hid behind fake ships while your real fleet attacked from behind. Yes, Morrison agreed cheerfully. We used strategy instead of brute force. We planned instead of charging straight ahead. We studied our enemy instead of assuming our superiority. Admission sent another wave of fear through the chamber. The humans were not denying their tactical brilliance. They were proud of it. Captain Lisa Barnes appeared on a large communication screen, broadcasting from the bridge of the USS Endeavour. The aliens could see the busy activity of a military command center behind her. Humans in uniform were working. At control stations, monitoring displays that showed star maps and fleet positions. "Greetings, Galactic Council," Barnes said with military precision. "I am Admiral Barnes of the Solar Defense Force. I have been authorized to share some information that might interest you." A new holographic display appeared, showing a map of local space. Red dots marked human ships and installations throughout the region. Aliens stared in shock as they realized the extent of human expansion. "For the past 3 years, while you believed we were cowering in our home system, we have been exploring and establishing bases," Barnes explained. "We now have permanent installations in 47 star systems. Our survey teams have mapped every trade route, every military base, and every strategic resource within 50 light-years of Earth." The implications were staggering. While the aliens had been treating humans as harmless newcomers, humanity had been quietly building an empire. Morrison gestured to another display that showed detailed intelligence reports about alien military capabilities. "We have been studying all of you very carefully. You know the exact composition of every fleet, the location of every important installation, and the weaknesses of every major species." Counselor Vexetera's voice was barely a whisper. "Why are you telling us this?" Morrison's diplomatic smile became something else entirely. Something that made the aliens' survival instincts scream warnings. "Because we want you to understand the new situation. The hegemony made the mistake of threatening Earth. They believed their own propaganda about human weakness. They learned the truth too late." Dr. Hayes activated another hologram showing detailed biological studies of various alien species. "Every sentient race in this galaxy evolved from prey animals. You developed flight responses, pack behaviors, and intimidation tactics because your ancestors survived by avoiding or scaring away predators." The chamber was completely silent now. The aliens were beginning to understand something terrible. "Humans are different," Hayes continued. "We evolved from persistence hunters. We are pack predators who use tools and strategy to overcome any obstacle. We do not run from threats. We eliminate them." Morrison stepped forward, and several alien delegates unconsciously moved back in their seats. "The Galactic Council has a choice to make," Morrison announced. "You can continue to treat humanity as an enemy, in which case you will discover what happened to the hegemony fleet was just a small demonstration of our capabilities." He paused, letting the threat sink in. "Or you can accept that the galaxy has changed. Humanity is not seeking conquest or domination. We simply want respect and fair treatment. Those who offer friendship will receive protection. Those who choose hostility will face consequences." The message was clear. The galaxy's apex predators had revealed themselves, and they were offering one chance for peaceful coexistence. The aliens had to decide whether they wanted humans as allies or enemies. Given what they had just learned about human capabilities, the choice should have been obvious. But fear makes creatures do stupid things. And the galaxy was about to learn just how far humans were willing to go to protect themselves and their friends. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy looked completely different. The Terran Alliance, as humanity's growing coalition was now called, controlled the most important shipping routes in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Species that had ruled for thousands of years now asked for human permission before making major military decisions. President Michelle Roberts stood in the rebuilt Galactic Council chamber, addressing representatives from across known space. The chamber had been expanded to accommodate the growing number of species that wanted to join the human alliance. Where once there had been empty seats and dismissive laughter, now there was respectful attention and careful note-taking. "The Terran Alliance has no desire to rule over other species," Roberts said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "We believe in cooperation, mutual benefit, and peaceful trade. However, we will not tolerate aggression against our allies or ourselves." The threat was polite but unmistakable. Everyone in the chamber had heard what happened to species that challenged human authority. Ambassador Jake Morrison, now Secretary of Galactic Relations, sat at a much larger podium, decorated with the symbols of dozens of allied species. His staff included former enemies, who would quickly learn that working with humans was much safer than working against them. The Zephyrians had been among the first to request alliance status, now served as Morrison's deputy, helping to coordinate diplomatic efforts across the galaxy, where people had realized that their ancient wisdom was no match for human strategic thinking. The mining rights to the Kepler 442 system have been redistributed, Morrison announced to the Assembly. All Alliance members will receive fair shares of the profits, with additional bonuses for species that contribute military support or technological innovation. Several alien delegates nodded approvingly. The humans had kept their promise about mutual benefit. Alliance members were becoming wealthy through cooperation with human mining and trading operations. But the real change was in military matters. Admiral Lisa Barnes stood before a tactical display showing the current deployment of Alliance forces. Human ships now patrolled alongside alien vessels throughout the galaxy, and their crews had learned to work together effectively. Joint training exercises will continue next month, Barnes announced. All Alliance military personnel are required to study human tactical doctrine. We have found that combining our strategic approaches with your technological capabilities produces excellent results. The aliens had initially resisted learning from humans, but the results spoke for themselves. Alliance fleets using human tactics had successfully stopped 3 separate pirate invasions and 2 territorial disputes without losing a single ship. Commander Alex Carter, now Admiral Carter, led one of these joint patrols. His flagship included crew members from 6 different species, all working under human command structure. The aliens had learned that human military discipline was far more effective than their traditional hierarchical systems. "Sir, we are receiving a distress call from the vegan trade convoy," his communications officer reported. The officer was a Zephyrian who had requested transfer to human service after seeing how effectively human ships operated. "Set course to intercept," Carter ordered. "Signal the escort vessels to follow our lead." The patrol fleet moved through hyperspace with precision that would have been impossible under traditional alien command. Human emphasis on training and preparation had transformed Alliance military effectiveness. When they arrived at the distress call location, they found a merchant convoy under attack by raiders from the Krell Empire, one of the few remaining species that had refused to join the Alliance. The Krell had thought they could continue their traditional piracy without consequences. They were wrong. The Alliance fleet struck with the coordinated efficiency that had become their trademark. Human tactics, combined with alien technology, created devastating results. The Krell raiders were destroyed in minutes, and the convoy was saved without casualties. Dr. Kevin Hayes had become the galaxy's leading authority on interspecies cooperation. His research stations throughout Alliance space studied ways to combine different technologies and biological capabilities. The results were revolutionary. "We have successfully integrated hegemony shield technology with human kinetic weapons," Hayes reported to the Alliance Council. "The new hybrid systems are 40% more effective than either technology used alone." The former enemies were now eager partners in scientific advancement. The hegemony, what remained of it, had become humanity's most enthusiastic supporters. Draconer himself served as a military advisor, having learned that survival sometimes required embracing former opponents. "The humans showed us that strength without intelligence is useless," Draconer told a gathering of military leaders. "We had powerful ships and advanced weapons, but we had grown lazy and predictable. The Alliance has taught us to think like hunters instead of bullies." The transformation was not just military or economic, it was philosophical. The galaxy had operated under the assumption that superior technology and overwhelming force determined the natural order. Humanity had proven that intelligence, adaptability, strategic thinking could overcome any advantage. Trade routes that had been dominated by fear and intimidation were now managed through cooperation and fair negotiation. Species that had spent centuries fighting over resources were now working together to develop new territories. The Alliance had established colonies in previously unexplored regions, using human survey techniques to identify valuable worlds that alien methods had missed. These new settlements became models of interspecies cooperation, with humans providing strategic planning while aliens contributed specialized knowledge and abilities. But perhaps the most important change was in how conflicts were resolved. Instead of the traditional pattern of escalating violence, disputes were now handled through alliance mediation. Human negotiators, trained in understanding alien psychology, could find solutions that satisfied all parties, Morrison reflected. On the transformation, as he prepared for another diplomatic session, 3 years ago, humans had been the galaxy's newest and weakest members. Now they were the foundation of galactic civilization. The aliens had finally understood what they had been dealing with all along. Humanity had not been hiding behind diplomacy because they were weak. They had been using diplomacy because they were strong enough to choose their battles carefully. The galaxy's apex predators had been sitting at the negotiating table for 3 years, smiling politely while calculating exactly how to dismantle any species that threatened them. They had studied every enemy, planned every contingency, and prepared for every possible conflict. The moment of revelation had passed, and the new order was built on a simple understanding that every species in the galaxy now accepted: never underestimate the patience of a predator. The humans had taught the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one who smiled while they planned your destruction. And sometimes the greatest mercy was being offered the chance to become an ally instead of a target. The galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again.